Thank you all very much. It's not that I'm a great cook, it's just that I have wonderful things to cook with. I grew up, our meals consisted of fish, fowl, or from the garden, literally. I feel very privileged that that was the case. Today, I'm going to show you a Hatteras Style Clam Chowder, and as we go along, there are variations to clam chowders all up and down the banks and the United States. I'm going to show you a small mock pot. Of course, this is pre-done so that y'all can taste this. This is going to be a mock pot so y'all can see how simple it can be done. First of all, it takes about 45 minutes to complete a good pot of chowder because you're gonna, I like to put all my stuff in one pot. I've already got me some salt pork. You can use bacon or you can use olive oil. You do not have to use salt pork. But a traditional Hatteras Style Clam Chowder does have salt pork. And what you do is like a one pot chowder pot. You put your salt pork in and you render it down, which I've already done that. So I'm just going to put a little bit into here to kind of, you know, oil up my pot. Then you take a potato, and I'm showing you this to show you just how quick it can be put together. And you want to dice it small because you chop up your clams too. Now, you can buy clams in the can. Now, I do stutter. I am a Hatterasser. We are allowed to stutter, mix our words up. But you can get canned clams, you can get frozen clams, but you really want to get to know your local seafood sources and go get clams in the shell. And if you put them into your refrigerator for several hours, they're extremely easy to open. I didn't bring any to open today because they're all into the chowder pot. So I'm using 1 cup of clams, about a 1/4 cup of salt meat, and for this mock pot, I'm just going to use 1 potato just to show you the ratio. You can adjust it anyhow you want. You've got the New England style clam chowder. You've got, I don't know where the tomato ones come from, but we've had clam chowder with tomato in it, with corn in it, right off the cob. All right, I've got all that in there. You put everything in together. Do not add any salt to your clam chowder if you use fresh clams, because they're plenty salty. Just put it all in together. Brought my trusty clam juice, because when you open your own clams, you get tons of clam juice as well. So, and the amount of chowder you use is will depend on how many people you serve. The amount of potatoes you use is how many potatoes you have on hand, whether you want it more potatoey or more clammy. We like to have ours plenty clammy. So you take, I've got all my potatoes, clams, and onions in it, and you just put the lid on it. First of all, when you're rendering your salt meat, you take the bits out. You put your potatoes, your onions, your clams, and your juice. Save your bits for the last maybe 15 or 20 minutes of cooking your chowder, and you put them back in then, and then you got that nice crunch to your bacon bits. You can, like I said, you can use bacon, you can use salt pork, and I use olive oil because some people do not like pork products in their clams. Yes, I do.
Do you chop up the clams?
Yes, I do, and I learned it from my father. If you take a fork and a steak knife and you make a saw action with it. Some people like to put them in food processors, but then you lose the little hard parts that you like. People like to taste or have the texture of the clam.
All right, Sharon, got a question here too?
Yes, he's got a follow-up. Yes, sir. Well, clams are kind of funny. You either cook them real quick or you cook them real long. You cook them real quick just to kind of get that little bit of heat onto them and they'll stay tender. But with chowder, you cook them for at least 45 minutes to an hour and then they'll tender up. But in that middle, they're tough for some reason. Yes, sir.
How much onion? And you said no salt, but how about black pepper?
Always black pepper. You season it to taste. Clam chowder is not a precise science recipe, by no means. It's however many clams you've got, how many people, and if you got a friend in Jesus and more people show up than you got time for, or had clams for, you just add more potatoes and more water. You know, I mean, that's how clam chowder, it wasn't that someone set out to do a specific recipe with it. It just came out by a means of what they had on hand and what they used. And on the banks here, everybody had potatoes, everybody had onions, people basically had salt, and we had the seafood, and that's add water and you've got soup. Thank y'all for coming.
Absolutely. Sharon's going to be around.
Did y'all enjoy it all right? Well, you got some other good stuff being cooked up here, so don't go too far, because the other guys that are coming up here, they're professionals.
Well, about 30 minutes, a little bit.